All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our January 27th, 2022 session of our literacy coaching enrichment. Obviously, Teresa's here with us today, and she's going to share a presentation with us and have some really great information. So thanks, Teresa.
And excuse me a moment, I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things here. Trying to share my screen as I can. All right, there we go. So yeah, welcome back everyone to a new year, 2022. Hopefully everybody had a nice holiday. Hopefully your year is going pretty well so far. Today we're just gonna do some, well, let me step back for a minute. Just some quick housekeeping. Always during these sessions, I encourage participation. If you haven't already, go ahead and add your name. Makes things a little personal when we get into our breakout sessions or when we're just talking. And always utilize the chat box. I always encourage people to utilize the chat box if you're wanting to communicate. And then of course, at any time you need to step away, just be considerate of others and turn off your video and sound. I know that some of us were having lunch. That is okay. I always say these are working lunch sessions. And I know that during this time from the 12 to 2 time, people are taking those breaks. On the agenda today, we're just going to do a quick mid-session check-in points, just kind of check in, see where sites are at with implementing literacy enrichment, see where people are at with, if any successes or any challenges that you've had, just kind of do some type of a check-in there. And we'll do a 4 corners plus 1. And then we'll talk about, we'll come back, share out some points of that, and then we'll get into evidence-based practices. Those are those integrated best practices I had said at the beginning of the year that I try to incorporate within the sessions. We'll get into what evidence-based practice it is, and then I will add some more to the list. And then we will follow at the end with some literacy activities. So without further ado, let's hop into our 4 corners plus 1. And actually, Katie, since it's just me and you today, but this will just be going between us. So with the 4 corners plus 1, again, this is a strategy that you can use in your program. You can use this if you want to do a review with the kids on information that you just did, if it's a lesson, if it's an activity, or you can even use this strategy if you want to get information, prior knowledge about a subject matter. So we're just going to hop into just the first one, just kind of working our way around. So far, Katie, has your program implemented any of the suggested literacy strategies or activities, or has your program encountered any challenges along the way?
Well, after the very first session, we did some of the story starters, and there was I'm trying to remember, it's been a while now.
No problem.
The one where they were like pictures and they had to write a story to go along with it or whatever. So we did some of those and the kids loved it. They had a great time with those.
Nice. So was it that activity easy to implement, or was it kind of a struggle for your staff to implement?
It was pretty easy. I just had printed off some story starter things and they just gave them paper and said, we're going to write today. Okay. It didn't require a lot of background information or anything, so it was pretty easy.
Something that would be an activity that you can implement on a regular basis?
Yeah, absolutely. We just switched our program around, and during our homework time, we're having like each day of the week is a specific topic. So like Monday's usually math Monday. On Wednesdays, we do some kind of a movement. It's our workout Wednesday. So it involves, like we did last week, they played a math fact game that involved doing like jumping jacks and push-ups and sit-ups. And so we were incorporating all that. But one of the days is Think and Write Thursday. So they do writing activities on Thursdays.
Okay, nice, nice. I see you are implementing one of the best practices that we talked about, the embedded instruction. I see that.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear
Well,
that.
and we also did I think one of the first times was the talking about giving them jobs.
Mhm.
We started doing that. It worked well for the first couple of weeks, and then the kids were like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, okay. And sometimes it was hard for the staff to like come up with a job for their assistant to do because there wasn't really anything that needed done.
Mhm. Now, this one is just something that you can reflect on. This next question is just, or next thing, list 3 to 5 next steps in planning and implementing like literacy enrichment within your program. This does not necessarily have to be with the kids. This is also family, and I should have put family in there, like your family enrichment. Just kind of list some 3 to next steps.
Well, we will be planning our next literacy night event, which is going to be in March. So we're
Okay.
going to start getting that stuff ready. Probably should start yesterday. But we'll be getting going on that. And once we pick out the theme, we'll have lots of activities that we'll have to start planning for that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And hopefully the next session that we get together, hopefully there's some activities in there that will help with that night as well.
Good.
Okay. Kind of going down to the lower bottom left, what are some challenges / limitations you might face with your kids, and how might you address some of those?
I mean, the biggest challenge that we have with our kids with trying to implement any new activity is that they don't want to do it. A lot of kids are in the mindset of, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. Because they've been told that either at home or by friends or whoever, saying, well, just say you don't want to do it. So that's kind of our biggest struggle with getting kids to cooperate, to do things, to try new things.
Even if it's something in regards to them coming up with what the activity is?
I mean, unless we can get every single child to come up with their own activity, they're not real keen on doing what other kids want them to do either.
Oh.
We're having a real struggle with just listening and doing what we're told, especially with our 2nd and 3rd graders. They've been real bad about that.
Gotcha.
Okay. Our 4th graders are good. I mean, they'll do pretty much anything. They're good.
Interesting. That is interesting. Usually you don't hear the 2nd and 3rd graders. Usually it's the 4th and 5th graders that people have problems with, not much your 2nd and 3rd graders. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Our 3rd graders are a rowdy bunch this year. Their class is kind of a rough class.
Gotcha.
And the 2nd graders are still like, I feel like they're not entirely sure how to school yet because of COVID last year.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. That social piece was not there. So yeah.
Yes. So we spend a lot of time reminding them of the rules and what's expected of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. Thinking back, yeah, that would definitely have an impact on that grade as well.
Yeah.
Just in the middle, and we're gonna go to kind of the in the middle part. List, if you could, some community partners that you feel could come in and implement your literacy program. And I know with the pandemic, a lot of people had a lot of partners, but then that kind of fell off. But these would be partners that you can reach out to, and either they can come in, or that they can do maybe even online literacy enrichment.
We actually have some things lined up. We have always been kind of partners with all of the local banks, and I've gone and spoken with a couple different banks in Cambridge Investment Corporation, and they are all interested in coming in to do some kind of financial literacy programming with our students, which I think will be great. We're hoping to set that up for later in the spring. And then we also have Iowa State Extension that
Okay.
comes in, and they do either STEM activities or literacy activities, depending on the week. As well as Farm Bureau comes in and does some activities with us as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Yeah. That way, you know, for sure that you can reach out to those partners and bring them in and still continue with literacy enrichment. Do you have any that maybe even for the family enrichment piece, do you have any that come to mind right away?
The public librarian, the children's librarian at our public library, he usually likes to come and do something at our literacy nights. We always include as many community partners as we can when we're doing those. Just
Mhm.
depends on what the theme is as to who we invite.
Right, right.
So
Mhm.
I mean, we've done one that was like, your future's so bright, and we brought in all kinds of policemen, firemen, doctors. I mean, all kinds of different professions so that the kids could kind of have a view of all of these professionals.
Mhm, mhm. Nice. That's good to hear. That's
Yeah.
good to hear that you're still able to pull in partners even during this time.
Yeah. I actually feel like people are ready to get back out there and make things normal again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
They're
Kind of
a
like,
lot
okay,
more willing.
right. We've had enough. Time to
Yes.
move on. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's get it back. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And then the last question is just kind of reflecting on what we were discussing now, the discussions. What are some takeaways, or what can you come away with that will help you move program forward?
Well, since I was the only one talking.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to reflect on when you're having discussions, just me and you.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Thanks.
Like I said, I'm not there to actually see the program in action, but what you're bringing to the table, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Keep going. Even with the challenges with the kids, keep going.
Thanks. They're getting better. It's just slowly getting there.
Uh-huh. Mhm. And you know, like I said, it's understandable with that. Now that you mention that, with that grade, they missed out on a whole year of getting that actually in the school. So
Yes. I mean, they were in school part-time, but it wasn't a regular,
oh no,
consistent thing. And so it's kind of hard to consider that even a school year.
right, exactly, exactly, exactly. Okay, well, moving on. Anything that you want to add to that part, to that piece here? Okay. And again, thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. So moving on to the evidence-based practices. Um, this is something that I have decided actually after the pilot year that we did with this program, that I was like, you know what, there are some things that I'm seeing as I work with OST programs that they could benefit from. They can also provide high quality activities, high quality programming. So the second year that I started to do this, the coaching piece, I said, you know what, let's integrate these best practices. And what I should have said was they're evidence-based practices that we're going to be integrating into programming. So what is evidence-based practice? It is supported by extensive research. This is that research that not just researchers, but practitioners have decided to take specific methods, and they decided to let's do this on a larger scale. They take in consideration of the population. They take in consideration of like a person's demographics, social economical status, race, gender. They take that all in consideration, and they do it on a larger scale. And what I mean by on a larger scale, so this is not something that you would just see in a classroom. This is something that you would see in a school building. This is something that you would see across the district, across the nation. These are evidence-based practices that you would see that what they did was like, okay, we're going to do this with 3,000 people and we're going to implement this and see what the outcomes are going to be. So if you were to go over here to this school A and then apply it to school B, the outcomes will be very similar versus like research-based. What research-based is more anecdotal. The outcomes are kind of all over the place. And as I had said, it does work on a larger scale. It's the practices can be used on various disciplines. And on the discipline part, that means I can go from an after-school program, I can implement this practice into a school, I can also take this practice into a college, a university. I can do it various subjects like SEL, I could do physical therapy, I mean, not physical therapy, but physical education, math, science. I mean, it goes across the board. And the benefits of evidence-based practices is that with this, it allows for folks to sit down and prioritize their goals. So when you're looking at bringing in these practices, you're going to sit down and go, okay, these are the goals that we want to achieve. What's the practices that's going to help us achieve that? What's the practices that's going to, again, if I go to the next one, invested time, what's going to maximize our growth and progress? And not just growth and progress among our kids, but also among staff. We're implementing these practices and our kids will grow, but our staff will also grow because they're also getting the training, the workshops to go behind there, okay? And the last benefit of that is that you will definitely get a high level of support from all your stakeholders involved, from your admin person to your board members, to community kids, families, everybody involved in the process will definitely support, because again, it goes back up to what is evidence-based practices. It's supported extensive research. Okay. A little different than research-based. Like I said, research-based is anecdotal. I don't down research-based. I think when we're in the business of positive youth development, that we put them all together. We got to find some balance between the two. And then going to the right, the various ways that we can incorporate this within programming. We've already talked about embedded instruction and differentiated learning. These are, if you look out the research, there's multiple things practices that you can bring into your program. It's not necessarily has to be these particular ones, but as I said before, these are the ones that I saw definitely would be a huge benefit to out of school time programs if they were to implement them within programming. So then the ones that we're adding for today is structured lessons, checking for understanding, and if you want to use the big word, comprehensive questioning, group work, and then again, that big word is cooperative learning. So let's kind of break these down a little bit more. As I said before, we had the embedded instruction and differentiated learning at the beginning of our sessions. I brought embedded instruction back because one of the things with embedded instruction, it's planned and intentional. These are planned and intentional learning opportunities that you're providing for your program, which means if they're planned and intentional, notice I'm using those words a lot, that you're going to have clear and precise, and you put in whatever word you want to put in there in that blank. Either it's going to be a focus, a goal, objectives, or purpose. You are going to be really clear and precise on what those are going to be. And then of course, the differentiated learning. With structured lessons, here we go with those words again, planned and intentional. Your structured lessons are going to be intentionally planned. You're going to be able to sit down and with whether it's teachers, whether it's your staff, and you're going to be like, this is what we want to do. This is the lesson that we want for today. This is how that lesson is going to look for the day. And again, it provides clear and precise, whether you have a purpose, your focus, whatever, you choose the words that you want to put in there. The second piece of the structure lesson is it provides clear understanding of the acronym CUD. This is an acronym that you would find in the educational world. And what this acronym is that it really is asking the question, what is it that we want kids to know? What is it that we want them to understand? And what is it that we want them to do? Okay, so summing that all up, it's really saying, what is it? What's the knowledge and skills that we want kids to be able to have when they're done with this particular lesson or activity? So again, we're planning, we're being intentional on what it is we want kids to be able to come through at the end. And then it also guides or aids in practicing mastery learning for kids. Kids are able to master what they're being taught. It also helps the staff in teaching for mastery. It's kind of something that we really don't do as often as we should, is teach for mastery. And when we're teaching for mastery, that means you're spending a little bit more time on a concept so that kids are actually, the majority of kids are able to master that. And you know that by getting feedback, by assessments and stuff like that, that you know that they mastered, but they're also able to practice it as well. Moving on to the next one. So checking for understanding or comprehensive questioning. This is one that people do, but don't do as often as they should. So this would be like having discussions, those either whether it's informal discussions or it's guided discussions in a group or individual, where you're just kind of gauging where kids are at with a subject. You may be talking about the zoo, and you're just kind of gauging where kids' knowledge is of the zoo. Okay, have they been to the zoo? Have they not been to the zoo? When's the last time they actually been to the zoo? You may have kids that go to the zoo on a regular basis versus kids that don't go on a regular basis. This could be like, okay, we're wanting to take kids out to a baseball game. How many kids have actually been to a baseball game, know how that is set up, and know how to behave? I mean, just gauging that, just to having a conversation will definitely give you information on, you know, where things are at. Reflective questions. Reflective questions come when you have an activity or a lesson that you're actually asking kids. When we're doing reflective, it's kind of like the individual, that social emotional learning piece there, where you're asking if this was a hard task, if it was an easy task, where they're able to go within themselves and kind of reflect out. Hey, this was easy, this was hard. Hey, I didn't like that, I did like that, you know, things like that. And then the second part of that is you have reading questions that we use to check for understanding. And with our reading questions, it's usually we usually do it before. So we may talk about the title of the book just to gauge where kids are at, what their understanding is. We may do it during while we're reading. And this sometimes is in the form of where we are reading and then we realize that we're getting to a place where somebody's getting in trouble. It's like, oh my goodness, wait a minute, let's stop, let's process this. It looks like this person's getting ready to get themselves in trouble. What do you think is going to happen next? That way they're able to use the context clues prior to kind of do an inference on what's going to happen, what's to come. And then of course you have reading questions that you do after, just to gauge comprehension, to gauge understanding. And then the last part of that is, so short review or to prior knowledge or learning. Usually you will see this if, let's say that we read on Tuesday and we come back and we're getting ready to read again on Thursday. So before you read, you would actually stop and do a review on what you just read prior, to either summarize what's going on, to get everybody up to speed, because you may have kids that were absent. You may have kids that completely forgot what you read. They're like, well, I don't know. I don't even know the characters of the story. So you're just kind of doing that quick review of knowledge and of learning. This will also come in too when you're wanting to make sure that kids are understanding one step before you go to the next step. So it's like we have 5 steps to this activity. We're on step 3. I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page before we go to step 4. So that's also when you would do like a check for understanding as well. And then the last part, last best practice that you can incorporate into your programming is group work, or cooperative learning is the big word. And again, there goes that word again, intentional. These are intentional learning opportunities for kids to work in groups, partners or small groups. And I want to say this before we go on with the cooperative learning, is that this is not something where, let's say we have a classroom of 24 kids, we have an activity going on, and we're going to divide them into smaller groups to make it more manageable for staff and to make it more manageable for kids. This is not what we're talking about. This is not what cooperative learning is talking about. It's actually being intentional. The effective part about cooperative learning is that you are selective when you are assigning a task to the kids. It also comes with defined roles and responsibilities. So you're making sure that kids know what their role is in these groups that you're putting them in. For example, you could be doing an activity where you have someone who's going to go responsible for the materials. You have another person in that group who's responsible for writing down the information. And then you have another person within the group who's responsible for keeping track of time. So everybody knows what their roles are. Everybody's responsible. It holds everybody accountable. This way you don't get into that, as we would probably call it, the 80-20 rule, where you have 20% of the students in the group will do 80% of the work, where it all falls on one person or a couple of people. That way it does not go that way. And then the last part of the group work, it encourages active learning. So now that you, again, are selective in assigning, you're intentional about what's going on, they know their roles and responsibilities, they are taking an active part in their learning, as well as developing those positive peer interactions. Okay. So I know I've talked a little bit, but we're going to do a check for understanding. So what I would like for you to do is answer these questions. So the first question is, what is evidence-based practices? And then list and explain in your own words. Because I just have Katie here, just give me a couple of ways that you can implement them in your program.
Sorry, I was chewing.
No, you're fine. That's fine.
So I like hearing all this. It's great to kind of have it reviewed each time, so I remember, get it fresh in my mind. And I love the embedded in structure, like knowing that you have things that are going to be happening every day that are clear and precise goals or a certain purpose that you're trying to fulfill. I love all that. I did like the CUD, the know, understand, do. That was good. And I'm going to do a little more with my staff on training them on these things so that they understand what the point of the lesson is. Like, we're not just doing it because I told you to, but like, this is why we need to do these things. We're trying to, especially like the teaching for mastery type stuff, instead of just saying, oh, we're just working on math facts today. It's like, no, we're actually helping them so that they have mastered these math facts. It's not just filling up time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these are not just, I know that this is a literacy enrichment PD. This is not just for literacy enrichment. Like I said, this goes across the board. So math, social, I mean, anything, any subject, these practices go across the board. I like how you are going to implement that in the next session. I'm actually the last 3. Let me see here. The structure lesson, checking for understanding and group work. I will break those down again and then have activities, kind of what it would look like if you were to do those in your program, just like I did in session 2. Yep. Help everybody out here. All right. Do you need to take a break or should we continue to move on?
I'm good. I don't need a break.
Okay, okay. So with that, now we're going to go into our activity time. I have several activities just kind of so that you can implement in your program. This first one is actually a read aloud, and we're actually going to go through the read aloud. It's called Mouse Makes Words. This one, it starts off a little complex, so that's why I'm doing a demo of how this would look. But once you go through it a couple of times and get a feel of how this will work in your program, you can kind of tweak it of how you want to. This is definitely a K through second grade activity. You can also have your ELL or ESL students, depending on the district you're in, they use different acronyms here. So we'll just go ahead and get into it. So what I'll do is that I'll read the slide all the way through, and then we'll go in to the actual read aloud, and then I'll explain how that's going to look. So the focus for this particular activity is that kids will be able to identify and formulate 3-letter rhyming words. Okay, and they're going to also make sound substitutions. It's also going to help kids with letter recognition, the alphabet recognition. So each kid will get their own set of alphabet letters, A through Z. I actually got these at like the dollar store. And these are a little flimsy, but they have other ones that are kind of not as flimsy. And there's 3 sets in this one. And I don't remember the cost. I think I got them at either Dollar General or Family Dollar. And I know Dollar Tree has them. So any of the dollar stores have them. And Steph is just going to really instruct the kids that they'll be using their piles to make rhyming words as you go through the story. So before you read, you just kind of go over the title and ask the question, what do you think the story is going to be about? Okay, so we're just, again, that before reading, what do you think this is going to be about? He's got a hammer in his hand, he's on a ladder, talking about he's making words, you know, just to engage conversation, again, checking for prior knowledge, if they can formulate, if they can look at something and give you an answer. And then while the reading part, so kids will find and spell out the words that are in this story, giving them time and assistance. So this activity, if you read the story all the way through without doing the actual activity with it, it's like, takes you like 2-3 minutes. But this activity actually is a 20 to 30 minute activity. And you'll see as we go through. Okay. Once they have this first word, then they will spell out the second word. And again, once we go through, you'll see how it works. Once you're done with the story, you can continue with the game. This book, actually, if you buy this book, at the end of this book, there's actually more rhyming words in the book. Or you can have the kids make up their own words, depending on the level that your kids are at. And then there's alternative rhyming word lists out there. They're called the CVC word list, just to kind of give you a gist of what that looks like. If you type in Google CVC word list, you'll come up with all sorts of websites. And these are the 3-letter words, but we all know that there's more words. You got fish, dish, there's a lot more words out there. But you can also use these as well.
I'm going to jump in here just really quickly and say, Katie, if you do decide that you want to purchase some books or purchase letters, those are absolutely allowable expenses with your 21st Century funds.
Yes. Thank you, Crystal. And this book I actually got at Learning Post. I'm sure you can probably find it somewhere else. It's a step 1 reader, so. Okay. Can you see my screen? Should say Mouse Makes Words. Okay.
Yep.
So like I said, we're going to go ahead through the read aloud. So there's two ways that you could do this. You can use technology and use the read aloud on YouTube, or you can actually do the read aloud yourself with the book. With either one, you're going to do a lot of stopping and starting with the book, with the story. And as I said, I'll show you how this works.
Reading, step 1. Mouse makes words, a phonics reader. Mouse is busy. Mouse is fast. Grabbing letters as he runs past. He finds new ways to make a rhyme by switching letters every time. Find the word hat.
So you would stop it there and you would allow the kids to find the word hat. So if you're using, again, the YouTube part, if you're using technology, then you would just have them look at and they can find the letters themselves, H-A-T for hat. If you're doing this, just reading from the book, you would use your whiteboard and you would actually write the word on the board and spelling it out at the same time. So kids can find those letters in their pile of words that they have. Okay, and then give them time to find the words. What some kids I probably would say, once you find the words, just raise your hand. That way they're not shouting, they're not, you know that they're ready to go to the next step.
Off goes the H. Cart in the sea.
Then you would stop it there and you would go, okay, now we want to take that H and we want to take it away and we want to find a C. So then you would allow kids to find the letter C in their pile. And again, I would probably direct the kids to say, once you find the letter C and put it with your other words, raise your hand so that I know that I can move on. And once they find the word, once everybody is there, then you can ask kids if they know what the word is, and they can say the word.
Yikes! Now it is cat. Find the word fan.
So then I would have them, again, find the word fan. So now they're finding a whole new word. And then give them time to do that. Again, if you're using technology, you could just leave this up. They can look and see how to spell it. But if you're using a whiteboard, you would definitely write the word on the board so that they can see the letters and you're saying the letters as well as saying the word.
Blow away the F. Move
So
in
then
a
you would say,
V.
okay, we're taking away the F. We're adding in our V. So go ahead and find that letter V.
Honk. Now it is van. Find the word
Again,
net.
same thing. So that's how this actual book goes. That's how it's set up. So then you would have them find the word, have them take away that letter, find another letter. And then that's kind of how this story goes. So I'm actually going to play the rest of the book all the way through.
Scoop up the N. Push in a P. Awk. Now it is pet. Find the word 10. Take away the T. Haul in an H. Cluck! Now it is hen. Find the word wig. Wheel away the W. Along comes a P. Oink! Now it is pig. Find the word pin. Pop goes the P, carrying a W. Wow! Now it is win. Find the word mop. Wash away the M. Spin in a T. Whee! Now it is top. Find the word pot. Dig up the P. Roll in a C. Good night. Now it is cot. Find the word cup. Wave goodbye to C. In runs a P. Arf! Now it is pup. Find the word bug. Shoo away the B. Here comes an H. Hooray! Now it is hug. Mouse is tired. His work is done. But moving letters is so much fun. Can you keep playing this rhyming game? Make more words that end the same. Mouse makes words.
And the book is just to get you started. Like I said, if you do it without using the book, you definitely would want to have your word list already together before you do it with the kids. That way you know which words you're going to go through with, that you're going to follow up with. Any questions on that particular one? I've had a site and actually wrote this out for a site. They did it one time. They were able to do it one time, and the kids that they did it with, they actually liked it. So, no. Okay. So the next activity is the alphabet game. This is actually in one, you'll see this variations all over the place. This is actually one that I played with my kids a lot when we did traveling. when we were traveling along, we had to be in the car for long periods of time. But the target grade is 3rd through 8th grade. You can do this with K through 2nd grade, but there are modifications. The modifications with K through 2nd grade is that you will just have somebody writing the words on the board or whatever you have so that the kids can see the words. The ways that you would play this, you can either do it individual, you can have them in partners, or you could do it as a big group, as a big classroom. Okay. So basically it's just really a cut and dry game. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pick a letter from the alphabet and you're gonna let kids know what it is. And they are to write down those words that begin with that letter. The minimum words they have to write down is 5. Now you determine what your maximum is. If you have older or advanced groups of kids, the minimum words is 7. Okay. So once they get their words down, like I said, you determine how many they actually have to have. Once they get the words down, you can go around the room and ask them to say what their list is, have somebody write it down, or you can collect the list and write it down so that you have a collaborative list of words. And then with that collaborative list of words, you can turn them into word walls if you're able to. I know some people share space, so you're not able to do that. So there's other things that you could do. You could do vocabulary builders. I love this particular one. I love the dice. This one is a pretty cut and dry one as well, pretty fun one. Roll the dice, wherever it lands, that's what they have to do. You could do a My Spelling Dictionary where they're putting the words in a dictionary that you create. That's up to you. There's all sorts of different activities that you can spin off just from this alphabet game. I mean, like I said, the targeted group of kids is 3rd through 8th grade, and actually you can do it with high schoolers too if you want to. But then you can have them turn the words into a story, song lyrics, poems. I mean, there's just so many things that you could do with the words that they create. And then you could do this on a daily basis. I mean, however it works for your program, but you would want, the goal is really to go through the whole alphabet. It's not just we do this one time and that's it, no. So every time that you bring this game out, you're doing one letter of the alphabet. Okay. You can have contests. I mean, when you get to the Y and the Z, you can have contests and see how many people can come up with those Z words. That would be really interesting to see how many people would come up some of the Z words. One of the things that they cannot do, I did not put this down here, but they cannot use it, of course, cannot use a dictionary. There's not when they're writing, not when they're coming up with the words. Now, afterwards, if you want them to look up the definition, if you want them to do stuff, extra activities with that, you can, but when they're coming up with their own, the words, no, they cannot use a dictionary, cannot use their phone. So yeah. Any questions on this particular activity? Like I said, this one you can take and run with this particular activity.
I don't necessarily have a question, but I do want to say that I used that dice game for a writing workshop that I did at the library in Victor, where I live. And the kids had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, you could do it for, yeah, a lot of stuff. So I have several games that I use with dice. So I went to the Dollar Tree and they have these little medium-sized dice, or outside of the regular size. It makes it really fun because the kids can actually see the numbers, and when you're rolling it on the floor, you can also buy the dice. I don't know, roller skating. Everybody remember roller skating when they had the dice and you had the, you could buy one of those dice if you want to. I know the kids get a really good kick out of that, but yeah. Thank you, Crystal, for adding that. Yeah. That's why I like that dice game. The dice game is very universal. You can use it across subjects. Yeah. Any questions for that one? Am I giving you some ideas, Crystal, for the library, Victor?
Oh yeah, Teresa, I steal from you all the time. So,
Okay.
so I almost feel like those kind of corny, cliched commercials of, I'm not just a part of this. I'm a client too, or whatever.
Yeah. The next activity, this is okay, so it says Winter Olympics, but this activity is actually for any of the Olympics. The way that it's written, it will go for any of the Olympics. I just did Winter Olympics because that's actually coming up next month. So with this particular activity, so the first 3 days of the Olympics, you will talk about the history of the Olympics. And you can do 6+ facts about the Olympics, trivial facts, however you want to present that. And this could be either for a classroom, you could do this for a classroom, or you can do this for a whole program. It is K through 12th grade. Well, excuse me, K through 8th grade. If we do it with high schoolers, we would have to do a little bit of modification just to make it so that it's a little bit more challenging for them. But during those first 3 days, so you will talk about the rings, what they symbolize. They're actually 5 continents. The colors. the color combination on the flag. And I'll actually send this out so people can have these. I'll send this out in an email after this is all said and done too. And then the Olympic mascots. Now I started at 2010 and went from present because some of our kids probably could be familiar with some of the mascots if their parents, do the Winter Olympics. But the mascots actually go back to 1968. Yeah, I was like, huh? Oh, I didn't know that. And then the activities that you would do for those 3 days would be, you would have have them create an Olympic pennant or flag out of various materials. I mean, you be creative, could be part of your art. They could choose 2 mascots to either color, draw, or trace. Create a continent passbook, and each color will represent a continent. And then the last thing, you can reenact the torch run, which that's a pretty cool thing to do. Pretty fun thing to do too. The continent passbook and you decide how you want that to look, how that works for you. You can create your own passbook if you want to, but it really will be the continent, and then you will have different pieces of information involved in it, like the location, the size, the climate, and the capital. For the older kids, you can add traditions, you can add food. I mean, there's other information that you can add so that they have more information that they need to look up, okay, that they need to research. Utilize the library. Go get library books with the continents in it so that you can have the kids do some reading. And then on the right side, the other side, so then the remaining days, you will spend 1 or 2 days covering each continent and allowing kids to fill out their passbook and do the activities. So again, when filling out that continent passbook, each continent will have its own page. And again, you're just general information about the continent so that they are aware of where it's at. You can even put it on a big map, and so they know geographically where it's located. And then you'll discuss facts about the continent, trivial facts, however you want to do that, the facts. And then the activities that you can do during this time, and you can come up with other activities. This is just a few. So you could try some type of fruit or vegetable, maybe a dish from that continent. I will say this though, if you do this activity, this is in addition to your snack that you provide. Yeah, that way people are staying in compliance. They can learn a new dance, maybe a game that continent does, or maybe a language. Maybe they learn how to say hi or goodbye or hello. Okay, and then there's other activities that you can add to that. Any questions? And this activity is supposed to should take pretty much the full length of the Olympics. It may go a little bit longer than the Olympics, depending on how many days that you meet and what your time is that you're allowing for this activity. Like I said, this is for any of the Olympics. It does not have to just be for winter. And actually, I'm gonna go back to this one. I actually put this together for a program, and actually it was a Des Moines school program. They did the first part of it because they already had something going on for the second part. And the first part of it, they said it went really well. Another activity that I did too, and I'll probably share that in the next session or sessions was that I did for RAGBRAI. We did something for RAGBRAI as well. And I probably will share that one in the next couple of sessions. Okay. And then the last activity is called a Readers League. I call this my Readers League. I created this activity. I worked in an after-school program and I saw kids reading. And I was like, okay, we're paying a lot of attention to the kids that are not reading, but we're not really giving any attention to the kids that do read. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a Readers League. I kind of switched some things up, but it was a Readers League, and what it was, the prize was they actually got a pizza party. So we had pizza, breadsticks, and then we did root beer float. But the requirement is for this Readers League is that anybody can join. It's open to anybody who wants to. They must read within a period of time. I just put 4 weeks to make it manageable. You could start off with that. And then upon completion of the requirements, they get to receive a special prize. You determine what the prize is. Okay, you determine what you're able to afford with your program. All the books have to be approved by a staff member. And this is just to make sure that you have everybody reading at the levels they're supposed to be reading. They're not getting books that are going to be frustrating and challenging, or they're not getting those books where you have a 5th grader who can read at 5th grade, but they're coming to you with a hop on pop. No, just to be in the Readers League. I've had a couple of kids try to do that. And then everyone will complete a grade level reading log. So at their reading level, or excuse me, at their grade level, there's different reading logs, and that will be provided by staff. And then during this time period, staff will do periodic checks to make sure, oh, and I didn't finish that, to make sure that participants are okay, that if they need some assistance on anything, just kind of gauging where kids are at with it. Those who want to participate, like I said, this is optional. This is not where everybody's going to want to do, because we actually want to celebrate those kids that are reading, and we want to acknowledge that they are reading. Okay. So kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd and 3rd grade, they will read 200 minutes. They'll write down the titles of their books, the books that they read and the minutes that they read. When they turn that in, staff can selectively ask comprehension questions about any of the books read. So here are a couple of reading logs. And if your school uses reading logs, folks, feel free to use their reading logs. That way there's that familiarity going on. And that way you don't have to sit back and explain how this reading log is going to work. If they're using reading log in school, ask the teachers, hey, are you okay if we use this during our Readers League? But so they would have the book, they would tell you the author, they would have the minutes that they would do. Okay, that would be your K through 3rd grade. 4th through 8th grade. So this is going to be where they're able to read 4 to 6 books. They will have to complete a reading log as well as a book report for each book that they read. Okay, so basically what they're doing is just keeping track of the book that they read, the pages read, and then when they are done with their reading book, and again, this is just an example book report, does not necessarily have to be this book report, then they will do some type of a book report. And of course, we want to make it simple. We're not trying to make it complex. You want something that is going to be simple, that they're going to be able to do. whether they're able to do it independently or whether they are going to need help from the staff. And that's why the staff will check in periodically, make sure that kids are filling out the paperwork that needs to be done. And then again, if they complete those requirements during the allotted time, then they will get a special prize. The program that I did this for, I started off with 6 kids. Because kids, and I'm gonna be really honest with you, because when I said that we were gonna do a pizza party, kids didn't believe that that's what's gonna happen if they completed the requirements. So after we had the pizza party and I did it a second round, you can imagine how many kids participated. I think I started with 6 and I think I ended up with like 16 or 17 kids the second time around. Yeah, because it was like, well, we didn't think you were going to do the pizza party. Miss Slaughter doesn't put anything out there unless she's actually going to follow through with it. So any questions on this particular one? And like I said, the special prize can be anything. I know back in the day, they used to do when you used to read the books and kids used to get the pizza certificates to go to Pizza Hut and get your own personal pan pizza. I wish they bring that back. I wish they would actually bring that program back, but I don't think Pizza Hut does that program anymore. McDonald's does, they don't do their, McDonald's does no longer have their bucks, their McDonald bucks anymore. That would be something too. But yeah, could be a book that they get. It could be, you know, your special prize can be anything that you want it to be that fits your budget. Any questions about anything that we've covered today? And then of course I have my works cited page, but Crystal, do you have any questions, comments, thoughts?
I think I'm okay. Katie, is there anything that you needed more information on?
No, these all sound like great ideas.
And I will send these out next week in a separate presentation. It's not going to be with this whole entire presentation. It'll just be those activities that will get sent out.
Yeah, and actually, Teresa, if I could have those like tomorrow, just because again, I'm on borrowed time. I just want to make sure that they get put in the appropriate folder on our server.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, including your PowerPoint too, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I think I can probably go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay.
Let me do that real quick here.
Thank you everyone for coming.